I call this meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Cal Marlin,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Here.
Alexi Gonzalez,
Here.
Jeff Truitt, Dan O'Malley,
Here.
Todd Smith, Jennifer Williams.
Here. Thank you. The Board of Adjustment meetings are quasi-judicial in nature. All decisions of the board will be based on competent substantial evidence, including testimony provided in this meeting. Any person who is not an applicant or agent who wishes to speak will need to fill out a speaker's card located on the side table by the door and turn them into the clerk. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each item once we open the public hearing. Please refrain from speaking from the audience, and applause or cheering will not be allowed. And lastly, please silence your cell phones. Board members included. Can we move on to the approval of minutes from the October 4th meeting?
Move to approve the Board of Adjustments minutes from October 4th, 2022. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the Board of Adjustment meeting minutes from October 4th have passed. Moving on to correspondence.
No correspondence.
And I see no old business on the agenda, so can we please call the first case of new business?
Board calls BOA 22-100111. Property address 1019 24th Street North. Motion to consider 34-337 E1C2 for a side yard setback of 12 feet in lieu of 15 feet minimum for the primary structure. 34-337 E11E for a lot coverage of 45% in lieu of 35% maximum. 34-337 E1G for accessory setback of 0 feet in lieu of 5 feet minimum along the southern property line for a paver, patio, and walkway, and to rectify existing nonconformities and allow for a substantial improvement at an existing single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. I've had none.
None. None. Okay, and I've had none. Would the applicant or agent please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony?
Right here.
You're going to be sworn in by the clerk.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address.
Neil R. Roberts, 1019 24th Street North, Jacks Beach.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. Can you please tell us the nature of your hardship at this property?
I built my home in '88. We're not changing the footprint, but I'm going to do substantial modernizing and remodeling of the interior, and that's why we've come forth to ask this for the board.
Okay. And can you tell us what relief from code you're requesting in your variance? Can you kind of describe it to us?
I was just told that I could ask to do the interior and that I could get relief because of that. I built my home in '88. I've not changed the footprint, and I'm just trying to do remodeling now for what I built in '88.
Does any board member have questions about the,
It's non-conforming right now.
For substandard lot.
if you would like to speak or kind of co-present, you'll just need to be sworn in. You're welcome to, you just would need to come up and be sworn in.
I knew that it was, I just didn't know how to say that.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
I'm not-
It can be a
It's a
little
non-conforming
nerve-wracking.
lot on a substandard lot, and it's the home, the footprint. I'm not gonna expand it, but it was the footprint the city of Jacks Beach let me build in 1988.
What are the zero lot?
I have considerable flooding in my backyard because I live on the last road along the intercoastal, and when they built the roads, they didn't build drainage back there. So my backyard fills up with about 1.5 feet of water, so I have bricks that have holes in them in that backyard that they're referring to.
And do those bricks go all the way up to the fence line or the property line?
About 1 foot away from the fence line, sir.
Did you have a permit when you built those?
The bricks,
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
How about the backyard patio? Did you have a permit when you did the backyard patio?
It was existing,
It was part of the original construction.
just,
Okay, thank you. What else have you added on?
I haven't added anything else on.
Just the brick? The brick?
Just the bricks because of the flooding in the back. That could be easily relieved, and I could just have water running down the side of my house.
Does that meal include the pervious pavers?
They're only pervious pavers right there. The sidewalk is from some old bricks that I have that are 1 foot away, that could easily be put 2 feet away, easily,
Off the,
off as a setback.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're referring to the rear? Was that?
The south side of my home.
Sorry.
There's actually a creek that flows in from the intercoastal that is right there on the other side of the street. That water flows between my house and the house to the south, and it flows beside our house. And then into a creek that comes in.
how do the pavers keep the water out?
It just keeps it from not where I'm not walking and 1.5 feet water.
It keeps it from being muddy.
Yes.
And would moving the pavers 5 feet back from the edge of your property line kind of accomplish the same goal? Because the request with regards to that rear paver patio is that they're currently set back 0 feet from the property line when they need to be per code 5 feet.
I can move them back 5 feet. And I could have the walkway 2 feet. Those are both along the south face of my fence. That could easily be.
Can we get your little flashlight there? Could just clarify there, Neil, I don't know if you can see that, where it says the word, put your binoculars on, it says the word brick there, and then pervious pavers.
Where you have the brick right there is where the water flows through, but the brick are antique bricks from Riverside and bricks from the 1800s. And then the pervious pavers are what I put in just where there's just not mud in there constantly.
So where were you saying you could move, what could you move north? If that's what you were talking about.
I could move, what is the walkway standard, 2 feet?
Yeah, you can have it 2 feet off the property line.
I could do the walkway, and I could do a walkway all along that southern face. And make that walkway instead of the impervious pavers, and then go along the southern face. I mean, that's the problem. But
Well, it's really, the request is for accessory setback of 0 feet in lieu of 5 feet minimum along the southern property line. So, for example, if that portion of your request is not approved, then basically by default, you would not be allowed to have anything with the 0 setback. You would have to comply to code in that area.
then can
So
I
it's
get
not-
approval because of the, because of the...
Well,
grant?
that's what's being requested. I'm just saying, you know, per the staff.
If I had a
report.
pointer, I would show you. There's basically, because of the way in section A, when they paved the roads, they didn't do sidewalks, they didn't do drainage, they didn't do curbs back there. So when the water comes flowing west to the intercoastal, because there's pools on both houses to my south, the water comes right between my house, and right there where that car is in the road, there's a creek that comes in that in high tide, it almost approaches where the pointer is right now. So my problem is that I can't even walk in my backyard. It's almost unusable because there's no drainage back there, and the water, because there's pools that have been permitted by the city on both this house immediately to the south and the one to the south. They both have pools. It sends the water straight between my house. And that's why I'm asking for that consideration to have that setback as 0, because it floods completely, up to 1.5 to 2 feet, just because of the nature.
Does that flood into your house then?
Pardon me,
Does that
sir?
flood into your house?
It never has flooded into my house I've lived there 34 years. But it gets that back deck that's shown, that was the original deck that I built. I mean, it gets up to right along that level sometimes, but then I have a step up into a screen door and then a step up into my home.
How does this impact your neighbors having that there? Have you talked to them about that since it's been put in?
It doesn't impact them at all. In fact, because my neighbor to the south built after me, the Section A wasn't built I was probably the 5th house on that. And so the builder that came in, no disrespect to him, that built the 2 houses to the south of me, built up. They are higher elevation than my house. And the city allowed them to build that, and they're higher than me. You can go down our street and see where the houses that were built in the 80s and the ones even earlier are lower, but the house to the south of me is considerably higher because the builder brought in dirt to build the 2 houses immediately to my south, which causes the water to go into my yard because there's no real drainage back there.
So the pervious pavers and the brick walkway, you put those in at the same time?
I did about the same period of time, yes, sir.
And do you know when that was done?
Gosh, it could be 15 years ago. It could be 10 years ago.
And the concrete driveway, that's always been there, right?
The concrete driveway has been there. In fact, when the city came back and paved, and the city came back and did something, they actually put the driveway, the end of it, on y'all's easement. So yes, that driveway has always been there. Remember, in the 80s when I built it, that whole area was slate, and it created a bunch of dust, and somehow the city, without curbs, drainage, sewer, the government allowed them to pave those roads back in Section A as dust control, and it's a mess back there with flooding sometimes because of the different elevations of the homes.
I got a question. The motion that is in the staff report has more requests than is true on his application. Where it's only asking for % lot coverage, nothing else about the setbacks.
That was added. I was originally supposed to see the 4th, and I guess on the original request, they didn't spot the setbacks for the back, and then that was added, and we changed the meeting from the 4th to the 18th.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it's pretty common if folks come in to see me, they may have an application filled out, but when we actually review it, we try and find anything that may be out of compliance, so they don't have to go through this process more than once and save us money.
So it is a request in the staff report is what we're really dealing with.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe this is the thing. So where it says under existing conditions, BZA number 28-88 for combined side yard setback of 14 feet or 7 per side in lieu of 15 feet. It seems to conflict, if I'm reading it correctly, with the 12 feet with 15 feet.
So, what I determined looking at the original variance site plan versus what was actually constructed is there ended up being a difference between the proposed site plan and the actual construction. So they went from having what should have been 14 feet setbacks, based on the survey, ended up being 12. So to try and correct that issue, we included it in this request.
So that was done when they built my house?
Correct.
88?
Yeah, they just didn't get the setbacks quite right.
Ah,
And I guess your new surveyor caught it when they did the survey, so.
I wish I could have called that in 1988. I apologize
You're
before
not
the board.
If it makes you feel any better, we didn't catch it either, so.
I'd just like to bring my home up to modern and existing standards and ask you to approve the setbacks as they are right now because of my flooding problem and the existing condition in section A.
Okay, if we don't grant you the percent lot coverage of 45%, what would you do in terms of trying to accomplish what you need to accomplish? Or how essential is that 45%?
That's, the 45% is what it covers right now, sir.
So that's pre-existing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because of what happened, that the city let me do the setbacks, my home, the footprint is obviously larger than what would have been normally put on that substandard lot. And I feel like I'm in a rock and a hard place because in 88, I don't know as much as I do now. God blesses us with knowledge as we get older. But I feel like that I haven't added anything to my home, and it's the same plan that I had in 88, and I want to bring it back to conformities, but I'm asking you to approve the setbacks as they are and the 45% lot coverage.
Which it is already.
I see many of my homes in my neighborhood that have pools that have much more than 45% lot coverage, and two wrongs don't make a right, but, you know, I'm just asking what my other neighbors have without adding a pool, with building something that obviously was put in a substandard lot originally. And I don't know how to correct that besides asking you to approve this.
It looks like it's a 5,100 square foot lot, and it's supposed to be, like, the plan is to 7,500 square foot, so it is smaller. Right. We could address that.
Significantly?
Yeah,
That's,
I think that addresses that.
any other questions for the applicant for now?
I have none.
All right, you can be seated. And I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers cards?
No speaker cards and no correspondence.
All right, is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak? And if so, please make sure you fill it out before you leave.
Not on that subject.
Okay. Hearing no one, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100111 based on testimony and evidence provided. The request is met on the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I think that he really did explain, I think that the applicant really did explain why he didn't have any permits and what's been going on. And I know that the staff report recommended something slightly different, just the side yard setbacks, but
I think the criteria one kind of speaks to the reason that he needs that additional variance, because it's kind of helping to mitigate some flooding that's particular to his parcel of land. So if he were to not be able to have that paved area anymore, then that would kind of cause undue hardship
Right.
with the flooding.
Taking and moving would be,
And it's been there since almost 1988.
Right, so that was my only question, and I don't know that it influences my opinion that much, but Christian, why is it that the home the staff report said the home was constructed prior to the adoption of the current land development code, but he did have a variance for the side yard setbacks? Is it just there was code at the time, it just wasn't the same
Correct,
as the
yeah,
current land development
and
code?
honestly, for the residential areas, it was almost identical to what it is now. So the lot coverage was the same, the setbacks were the same, so he had to go through the process just like he is now for the construction at the time. It was just the prior land development code that was in place.
Okay, but maybe not with lot coverage because he presented plans for the home that were over.
Well, the plans that were in the original variance didn't include the pavers. It just included the driveway, the walkway, and the small deck.
Okay. And not to do John's job for him, but by my math, I think if this were a standard lot, he would be at like 30% lot coverage or
Let
something.
me bring along the younger people on the board. I didn't calculate it.
An excellent job.
Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
John Moran,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Dan O'Malley,
yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Lexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your request has been approved.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Can we, yes, sir. Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls POA 22-100113. Property address 523 12th Avenue South. Motion to consider 34-338E1G for an accessory setback of 0 feet along the eastern property line, 0 feet along the northern property line, and 2 feet along the western property line to rectify an existing nonconformities at an existing single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
None.
And I've had none. Would the applicant or agent please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony?
Question, can I speak on behalf of my mother? She's a little on the nervous side, doesn't like speaking in front of.
As long as she doesn't address from the audience and you're her representative, that's fine. But if she's going to speak at all, she will need to come up and be sworn in. In that case, you're welcome to be sworn in and speak on her behalf.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address.
Max Jones, 523 12th Avenue South.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Can you please tell us the nature of the hardship at this property?
So we've started, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous too, but
That's okay.
we've started a build out of the existing garage that we have on the home for my family, my wife and my son to move into the single family dwelling with my parents there. So we could all stay at the beach. This is a home that I've grown up in since I was a child. My parents have lived there for 40 years. I was born and raised here in Jacks Beach. And with pulling the permit side of things, these conformities were brought to our attention and they're holding up the CO of our actual bill also until these conformities are met or the variance is requested.
So construction began, and in the process of finalizing the permits, you realized that you had some
No,
code issues?
when we had requested the permit, those came back as a stipulation as far as being able to get our CO for when the build is completed. We had to have these conformities either met or request for a variance for these issues. So they weren't brought up until I guess the survey was looked at And maybe whoever comes by to the house looks at the area, the lot and everything, and then bring it brought to our attention when we receive the permit application, or the permit itself.
Gotcha.
Christian, could you use the pointer and show me where structures are, the accessory structures are in the back of the house that are currently at 0 feet, I think?
Okay, so, let's look here. So this structure right here has a 0 setback on this side. It's got quite a bit on this side. And then this structure has, looks like, it's hard to read on this copy. Let's see if that one's clear. Maybe, yeah, let me get the original.
Actually, is there a structure that goes across the property line?
No, those parcel lines aren't accurate, the survey is. Okay, so this structure here has a 0 setback to the rear property line. It has 2 feet over here, because it's been expanded a little bit. This one has 5 feet here, 9 feet here, and then there's an overhang here that has 2 feet according to the survey here.
And that's actually not a frame structure, that's just like a freestanding, like, pergola. It's not an actual.
Carport, yeah, it's not attached to the structure.
So it's not attached to the roof?
Right, yeah, it's a freestanding.
It's set in concrete, like a concrete footer, the actual 4x4, actually they're 4x6s are actually set. It's like a 4x6 structure with just the top header that's got plants growing on the side of it. But I mean, it's been there for over 25 years also.
How many?
25 years it's been there, the side structure.
So you did not do it yourself?
Yes, sir, it was performed by my father and I.
Okay.
So
your
you-
family did it?
Yeah, you said that you grew up in the home. Do you know how long your parents, like when they purchased the home?
I believe they've been there for roughly 40 years, close to 30 or 40 years, I believe.
And can you speak to when some of these accessory structures were added?
So I do know that the side pergola, the long structure, has been there for roughly, like I said, 20 to probably 25 years. The back corner lot, the back corner of that would be the right-hand side of the lot, that is actually a shed that was put there for the process of clearing the garage side of it out for us to do the build and the extra build that we were doing with the improvement to the house there for the cemetery.
So is that meant to be temporary, or it's intended to be permanent storage now that you?
It tended to be permanent storage now that we have elevated the garage, but have added the carport on to conform with the actual conformities that we have to have for still keeping a garage/carport since we've eliminated the existing garage.
Can you move that structure?
I'm sorry?
Can you move that structure?
The shed structure? Yes, sir. It could be moved. I mean, depending on how far. At this point, probably a foot here or there. We could definitely get it slid if I had to get a skid steer back in there to try to get it moved around. But
Well, if it was, 5 feet, they could have moved it out. It would be no further to the backyard line, property line, than the structure on the other corner.
okay.
Because it's 5 feet, if I remember right.
Christian, just so I understand the staff recommendations, relocation and removal are two different things. Are they saying that they would recommend this if they just relocate them, or they want those two northerly, east and west?
Either would be an acceptable alternative. Those are the two options,
Get
basically,
them off the,
if you don't approve it, yeah. It's worth noting, because I don't think you can clearly see it here, there is a alley back here as well, so they are not actually abutting a direct property to the rear.
Have you spoken to any of your neighbors about
Yes,
this?
sir. I actually have some letters from a few of my neighbors if I could give them someone for.
Sure, they can be submitted to the clerk and we can read them into the record.
for the, yes, sir. It's 20 feet wide by 17 foot in depth.
And then, sorry, you mentioned the top right corner. Can you address the structure at the top left corner?
That's been a pre-existing slab that's been there for roughly that 25 to roughly plus years also. And we put a small little art shed, kind of feels like a small shed that my mom does like artwork and pottery in. That's what she does, that shed. But with that pre-existing slab, it's roughly been there for that 20-year period, not 25 plus years. As long as I can remember as a child, that slab's always been there.
Now, are both of those backyard structures, accessory structures?
I'm sorry?
Are both, excuse me, are both the accessory structures in the back
Yes, sir.
on concrete slabs?
No, sir. Only the one to the left-hand side is going to concrete slabs.
Northwest.
Yes, sir, northwest.
Any other questions for the applicant
I've done.
for now? You can be seated for the time being, and I'll now open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers cards?
No speakers cards. Could you? Yeah. So we have a couple letters. This is to whom it may concern, Dory Rogers, 622 12th Avenue South, Jacks Beach, Florida. I, Dory Rogers, a neighbor of the applicant's family for 40 years, would like to offer my support in favor of accepting the above referenced variance. The existing structures are in no way obtrusive or intrusive from my point of view. Your consideration and approval of this variance would allow them to move on to their addition upon completion. The second one is from Fred Hilton, 533 12th Avenue South, Jacks Beach, Florida. To whom it may concern, I, Fred Hilton, the next door neighbor of the applicant's family for about 40 years, I would like to support them in their endeavor to keep the existing structure, including the above variance. Consideration of the matter is greatly appreciated. And the last one is from Terry and Lynn Lee, 515 12th Avenue South, Jacks Beach, Florida. To whom it may concern, we are Terry and Lynn Lee, neighbors of the applicants since October 1982. We have no objections to keeping the existing structures included in the above variance. Thank you for your consideration. That's it.
Would you like to come back and address any of the comments made?
Thank you for your time.
Are you happy with the comments? Is there anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak at this time? Hearing none, I'll now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100113. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request is met all the standards for variance is outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I thought that I thought we would have something different than the testimony presented, that these have been there for an extraordinarily long time.
And given there's an easement behind there, it doesn't appear to impact to the neighbors, versus pretty supportive.
Yeah, and all the neighbors have been there as long as this family has, and they all have no objection to it.
And the other thing is that from the front of the house, you cannot see at all what those accessory structures are.
That's right.
The structure itself blocks the view. And with the alley in the back, it seems to me that it's got some flexibility in that area also.
And also the fact that, I know the lot is particularly large, but I think it speaks to it that even with these accessory structures, they're well under the lot coverage requirements. think it would be a different story if they were driving up the lot coverage, but I think it's meeting that criteria of the minimum use, criteria 5, granted variance is the minimum variance required. Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Lauren Curley,
Yes.
Dan O'Malley,
Yes.
John Moylan,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your request has been approved. Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-100115, property address 0 Sunshine Court. Motion to consider 34-337E1E for lot coverage of 43% and low 35% maximum to allow for construction of the new single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. I've had none.
I've had none.
None.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please be sworn in and give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand, state your name and address.
Robert E. Barnes Sr., address is 3317 Wolf Pond Drive, Jacksonville, Florida, 32250.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please tell us the nature of your hardship at this property?
We're trying to build a single-story family on a non-conforming or substandard lot size. We're asking for 43% lot coverage in lieu of 35. It's 67 wide by 95 deep. If it was a RS2 lot, it would be 7,500 square feet, and we'd be only asking for 36% lot coverage.
Any questions for the applicant?
I had a hell of a time finding this place.
We all owned it.
I basically went on Google Maps, and they kept taking me to the middle of the tennis courts at the park. And I knew that wasn't right,
No.
so I finally came to City Hall, and somebody showed me where it was.
I know that there were no sort of renderings or plans included, but I just wanted to see if you are planning to build with any backyard kind of build out, like a deck or a paver, or, you know, a slab or anything like that, as well as with the driveway. Is this percentage giving you like
It's giving
ribbons
us
of
what we
gravel?
have, it's giving us what we've asked for as far as the driveway, walkways. We have one place in the back where we have a place to park a golf cart inside the garage. We were going to do a little ramp to get in because of the height of the house off, so you're not jumping up over a big 12-inch thing. And that's basically it. We're not looking to do a deck because it does have a built, patio in the back, already in the plan.
Okay.
It's a covered patio, it's part of the
Okay.
It's immaterial, but is this a spec house for you or?
Yes,
is it a
sir.
house?
Yes, sir.
You're building it to sell?
I'm building two of them side by side. Yes, sir.
Second one, I figured that was the case.
I only ask because, sometimes when we get these requests, it's for, like I said, like the driveway ribbons with gravel, and then 6 months later, the person who buys the house is
Now, we
coming and
use
asking
the
if they
purpose
want to go.
pavers to try, we keep it down as much as possible.
Good.
Okay.
You're just not positive exactly what your pavers are going to come in on the pervious side, so we're just trying to make sure we're well covered.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I've none.
All right, you can be seated for now. And I will open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers cards?
No speakers cards and no correspondence.
Okay. Go ahead.
Please raise your right hand, state your name and address.
My name is Cyril LaScala. I live at 3273 Pulliam Court in Jacksonville Beach.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I have more of a question. Again, if you look at the lot, they are undeveloped. They were just sold. All the lots, could you go back to that?
No.
page? Yeah. That whole grass area has just been sold by Jacksonville Beach to the developer, and maybe another developer. So all the lots, my home is the one at the bottom left. And so my concern is, it's really a question for the developer, if he increases the size of the lot, is there a limitation to the height of the structure?
Yes.
There'll still be a limitation, so we won't see a 3-story home with a deck on the top that has a view of the beach that we've seen in Jacksonville Beach.
Well, they can build a 35 feet.
35 feet is maximum height?
Yes, sir, that's throughout Jacksonville Beach.
But you're behind, you're next to the cul-de-sac lot. You're
Yes, yes.
west.
Right, but my concern is the lot behind has just been cleared. It isn't part of this proposal tonight. I imagine that's forthcoming. Someone will be standing here saying, I want approval to build on lot, I think it's lots 8 and 9, or, 8 and 9 in that area. And so when I look out my backyard and I see no more trees, and I see all the birds have disappeared and all the wildlife is gone, I'm kind of concerned about what's going to take its place now. And also, just for our well-being, now I'm going to be looking at a structure behind the house where for the last 7 years I've seen nothing but wildlife.
Well, I think it's kind of like, for about 7 or 8 years, I had an ocean view, and then somebody built a building in front of me, and I lost my ocean view.
You should have bought the properties in front of you.
I do want to keep our board members in mind that this is the gentleman from the audience's time to speak. He's still got about a minute.
Okay, but again, I have assurances that the height limitation won't change. And I'll be on lookout to see if there's any other variances that come here that might affect what's going on behind my house. Thank you, Susan.
In fact, we could not change that 35-foot limit, even if people asked to have it done.
So could it be part of a variance
It
request?
could not be part of the variance.
Council, okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak at this time? All right, sir, would you like to come up and address any of the comments made?
I have lots 10 and 11. I think he's on, Hannah is the one to purchase where he's at. I plan to build a 2-story. I don't plan to see the height limit at all. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100115. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
We've seen these lots before. They were all platted, I think, in the 20s. They're all substandard. I think that I applaud the developer in trying to keep lot coverage down because that's been a consistent problem in that neighborhood as people want to put in patios and things like that in the backyard. So I think that, again, it's asking for something that's pretty much
Any further discussion? No? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Dan O'Malley,
Yes.
John Moylan,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request has been approved. Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-100116, property address 0 Sunshine Court. Motion to consider 34-337E1E for lot coverage of 43% and with a 35% maximum to allow for construction of a new single-family dwelling.
As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
None.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please come forward to give your testimony? You'll need to be sworn in again since you just were. And please proceed.
It's the same, lot next door, so it's the same.
Yes, I believe somebody said it's a twofer this week.
Buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one, yes.
And this is also, in your mind, going to be a two-story house?
Correct. Yes. It's basically the same floor plan, with just a different roof design. That's all it is. So
You
they
didn't have
look
any-
identical.
Nobody go by and saw your sign and asked you what you're doing or comments one way or another from neighbors?
Flag.
No comments from neighbors or?
No,
Okay.
no, I've been going down here for
Other than-
45 years.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I have none.
All right. You can be seated, and I will now open the public hearing. Any speakers cards on this one?
No speakers cards and no correspondence.
Is there anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card yet who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100116. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 Land Development Code.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Same, exact same.
Yep. All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Dan O'Malley,
Yes.
John Moran,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your request has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the planning department report.
Just a reminder that we have the Comp Plan Land Development Code workshop coming up for you guys and the Planning Commission next week, which will be Thursday at 6 p.m. in this room. We have one for the Community Redevelopment Association Board, the CRA Board, this Thursday, which you're welcome to attend. It's really geared towards their perspective, mostly on downtown, but these are all open to the public, and you guys are welcome to attend all of them. We had the first meeting with the citizens last week. Not a huge turnout, but we did get a lot of useful feedback from the folks that were there. The consultants came and explained the process, we took a lot of their input. That presentation is on the website for the project. So if you want to go and look at that, kind of get a precursor of the kind of questions they're going to ask. But yeah, I think it's going pretty well, and I hope everybody can attend on the 27th.
So I've got a conflict, because I've got a meeting of the police citizen board
Okay.
class. It starts at 6:30. If I go a week to it, can I leave at like 7?
Yeah, so the way the consultants have structured it, the first 45 minutes was kind of their presentation, and then the rest of the time was really going through their questions and taking feedback. I'm sure it'll be a little bit different because you guys are two boards and they may have some more targeted questions, but one, you can provide input at any point through us or the email address that they have. But yeah, I think you can attend as much as you can, and then if you need to leave, that's fine.
I will, see, I believe, is the next meeting on the first?
Yes.
Yes. You will be here? Okay.
So the next scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, November 1st, and there are 3 scheduled cases.
How many?
3. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
How about that?